Hi, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Craft on Tap, where we talk about growth marketing for RIAs. I'm your host, Stephen Beach, the CEO of Craft Impact, and with me is Faustin Weber, a marketing strategist at Craft Impact. Today, we're gonna talk about how to get better results with your email marketing. So, email marketing is a pretty common tactic. I would say, a lot of firms are doing some version of this. But yeah, we just want to talk about, how to get better results because if it's a tactic you are already doing, and even if you're not, it's something that's kind of, I hate to use the term low hanging fruit, but it is something that, with a couple of relatively minor tweaks, you should be seeing quite a bit better results. So, first place we're going to start is talking about segmentation. So, how do we segment your contacts? We're going to walk through kind of our thought process and what we've done with other clients in the hopes that this will be helpful for you with your firm or with your current marketing folks, whoever's actually doing the email marketing. So why don't we jump in there, Faustin? Like, just talk to us about how do we start thinking about segmentation of a contact list?
Yeah, nice. And just to clarify a little bit, like we did a pretty deep dive in the email marketing where we covered parts of this back at way back episode 8 for some of our
Way back.
diehard listeners before we were famous, Stephen, right? I just
Poor
say that
Kitsy's
tongue in
put us on
cheek.
the map and
Oh
made
my
us
gosh.
famous. Yeah.
Yeah, but we thought that this more specific dive, like this is a first step, like the fundamentals, the foundation of your email marketing. We thought we'd just do an episode just focusing on the segmentation piece. We had a LinkedIn post that seemed to resonate with a decent amount of people on this. And so we felt like, hey, let's just do a podcast episode just talking through this. So typically what we get is we get lists from the advisors when we start working with them as clients, and it's just disorganized, right? Like sometimes it's just a big list of anyone that has ever been in the CRM of the advisor, whether or not it's a prospect or a client or a former client or just someone they know or a vendor or part of their team. And we just get this big disorganized list, right? And that's pretty common. If that's you out there as a firm, whether or not you're just getting started or you're a $4 billion RIA, it's pretty common to have that because it's tough, right? Like the data hygiene, the email upkeep of trying to make sure that all of your contacts are labeled or tagged in a particular way is tough to do. Client service associates can help with this a lot of times, but it's just tough, especially if you change platforms or if you change your target audience that you're going after, right? It's tough sometimes to go back and re-tag them in the way that you want. So this is a good place to start. And so we thought we'd just kind of talk it through and like how you can get started with this if you feel like your list is unorganized or if you feel like you just want a little bit better results and some new ideas to think about how to organize your email list. Okay, so let me share here just this graphic. So this is a good way to get started. So the first step is just think about the type of contact that you have, right? Hopefully you have a list of your current clients versus prospects that you're going after. But if you don't, that's definitely the first thing you need to do. Like you need to separate, okay, here's our COIs that we have in the space. Here's our vendors that we have in our email list. Here's our employee or team members. Here's our prospects that we have. Let me zoom in here a little bit. And here's our clients. And the reason you want to do that, right, is there are emails that you want to blast out to everyone, right, that you feel like would definitely resonate with them. But there are going to be a lot of times that your messaging is going to differ based on the clients that you want to share it with versus the prospects. It just changes the whole way that your email can resonate, even from the subject line to the first couple of lines that you share to even the content that's in the email that you want to send them. And so if you don't have this segmented, you end up just blasting it out to everyone and that you try to kill too many birds with one stone in the way that you present it. And so the first step that we say is just break down your contacts in a way that really like clients versus prospects is the big one. Stephen, would you add anything here?
Quick note, I guess, is most firms don't have even this clients versus prospects differentiated. So if you're in that boat, you might have touched on this. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like you're too far behind. This is a pretty easy fix. 99% of firms that we talk to don't have the differentiation between a client or a prospect, or rather, they kind of know that, but then they don't. They're not actively email marketing to those different lists in a different way. personalized to each list. So no, easy place to start. Clients versus prospects. You've got COIs on here, so those are your state attorneys, your CPAs, maybe. You've got some vendors. I don't know that that would be a valuable group for most firms, but it could be. And then you got kind of the internal employee and advisor facing. So that is I think let's not overlook that piece of it too. Depending on the size of your firm, how you communicate with your internal folks you know, um, can be a really important piece of this as well. At the high level, clients versus prospects would be a great place to start. And then, if you can, segment out your COIs because you could definitely do some really nice personalized segmented marketing to your COIs.
Yeah, nice. I mean, just thinking about the employee or the advisors on your team, a lot of times they won't even be on the email list, right? And so the whole point, in a lot of ways, of some of the bigger firm wide emails that you send out to your clients is to help supplement and support and enhance your client service. So you want your team members to know what's going out when it goes out, right? As a way to better complement each other, and just including them as part of your prospect and client emails can go a long way. And the first step is getting them into the CRM. Okay, the next piece is marketing persona. So this is a little bit more sophisticated, I would say. It's a little bit trickier to do, especially with your prospect lists, is really to start breaking down, okay, if you're proactively going after a particular type of market, whether it be a small business owner or executives, attorneys, military, ex-military, you want to try to narrow down your list and be able to call those individuals out so that you can email things directly to them, right? Just as much to save the other individuals on your contact list from getting emails directed to them as to reach the individuals that you want to market to. You don't It's hard to speak to tech professionals in the same way that you're going to speak to military or ex-military individuals, right? Like, yeah, if they're pre-retirees, they might have similar challenges, but you can just change up so much in the way that you present everything if you have these groups differentiated first. So even in these like first two steps, right? Like client versus prospect, I have clients that I know, okay, now that I have my client list, I can tag 20 of them as ex-military. All right, so now that gives me a little bit of an idea of how I could build a referral based campaign out of those 20 ex-military clients, right? Or I have 40 prospects that are tech professionals. Okay, and here's how they've engaged with our content over the last like 1, 2, 3 years. Now I can make a better decision about how to build out a proactive marketing campaign using email marketing to those individuals. So even getting to this level of like, hey, who this person is from a persona basis, and if they're clients or prospects, now it just opens up more doors about decision making that you can do as a firm too. So there's like all sorts of added benefits to having better organization. Stephen, what would you add to that about the marketing personas?
If you're listening to that, you're thinking, yeah, of course I would talk to, a military or ex-military person way differently than I would a tech professional in terms of talk to them in terms of like the content that they would be looking for. I think once you have this pinned down, it's just really clarifying, I guess, like sort of you start to pin this down who your personas are. Then the question of like, okay, what kind of content should I be sending them? That almost answers itself. It becomes very clear. It becomes whole lot of easier to figure out, what am I going to send to the tech professionals versus the military, ex-military, because you can definitely personalize. And so I'll say like marketing persona. We've talked about niches before quite a bit on the pod. There's a lot of talk about the riches are in the niches. Um, Whatever you can do along these lines, I think would be helpful in terms of like defining a persona. Doesn't need to be a 6 month exercise of like, really getting into the weeds. It just like at a high level, like, how are these people different? Can you bucket them into different personas so that you can then send them better, more personalized content? So just to say like a note of encouragement, like you don't have to go extremely deep on these. Just aim for, 2 to 4 personas. We've got a few listed up here as examples.
Yeah. And even if you're not niching down into those groups, just being able to better, let's say you're just really focused on trying to enhance your client service, right? Um, you know, Providing content and important information about tax planning for business owners resonates a lot better with business owners than it does for non-business owners. So there's so many advantages for, taking the step to be able to better organize your list that extend far beyond just trying to get more leads, right? So
Right.
there's a lot here that I think clients first prospects, then try to narrow down some personas. You can do a lot. We actually just went through this exercise with a group, a firm that were really emphasizing exit planning as a catalyst for driving like overarching financial planning services for business owners, right? But we spent some time like breaking up their current list of prospects and clients into the people that are actually business owners, right? So that this great exit planning content that we're posting and distributing across multiple channels, we can also take advantage of the email list that the firm has to try to leverage potential referrals from the client base, and then also to try to drive some more engagement from prospects that we've had on the list for years, right? So that just opens up all sorts of opportunities, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. Imagine being a 35-year-old tech professional getting videos about exit planning for business owners. You would be at the very least annoyed, just like, okay, they missed it. I don't know why they're sending me this stuff. I'm already super busy. I already don't
yeah,
have time for this. So we're trying to avoid that. So and give them and it is. I do think you made a good point. I do think it definitely feeds the client experience this way because firms that do this well, um, their clients feel like they're seen and they know exactly who they are and kind of what they're interested in versus the example I just gave, you're kind of turning people off, like giving them a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth. Like you're just sending like a blanket email out to everybody, and I know it's not, related to me. It's just a quick delete. So it's not doing you any favors in terms of the experience that you're giving your clients. So we want to avoid that by doing some simple segmentation here.
nice, well said. So those would be the two big like fundamentals, and then we have a couple of other ones that kind of deal more with retirement. And this is tricky, a little bit trickier to do because it's sometimes it's hard to export birth dates to get ages and then put them in because a lot of times your CRM is different than your email marketing platform. That's why we like HubSpot so much because a lot, you can cross over between the two, but HubSpot doesn't always have the capabilities to be able to plug into some of the, Orion and some of the other places. So, completely understand why you would have separate Salesforce financial services, or you would have, one of these other big CRMs. But we would say, if you can get a good idea of someone less than 60, if they're in between 60 and 65, or if they're over 65, and then if you have an idea of if they're retired, if they're nearing retirement, or if they're far off from retirement, you can do a lot with pre-retiree content that better resonates with the audience. As advisors listening to this, like the gap years between, an early retirement and Medicare at 65 versus someone who's already been enrolling in Medicare after 65, or someone that's nowhere near Medicare, right? Like there's just content that you can share and talk about in a particular way that resonates much differently. In the same way as if someone's been retired for, I think when we first started off, Stephen, we started sending out all this like pre-retiree content we weren't practicing what we're preaching here, with one of the firms we've been working with for a while. And we sent out a bunch of blanket emails from individual advisors that were all about pre-retiree content. And one of the clients sends back this message and he's like, "Hey man, like I've been retired for 15 years. You know that. We've been working together. Like, why are you sending me this pre-retiree content?" And it was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, because we didn't know. We just wanted to blast it out to everyone, right?" So that's like one of the things that I think if you have an idea of the persona, if you have an idea of the client versus prospects, but then you get down into retired versus non-retired and what age they are, you can really hone in your messaging in a way that resonates and it feels personal and feels valuable to your clients or prospects. What would you add to that, Stephen?
Awesome. I don't know if I have much to add. I think that just a note, I guess one thing, just a note about the integration with the CRM piece. Yeah, we're big on HubSpot. We've been a HubSpot partner for 15 years. But we work with all different types of systems, and some of them talk to HubSpot email marketing. Sometimes we're doing email marketing through a non-HubSpot tool such as MailChimp, Constant Contact. Um, what's the Kit? It used to be called ConvertKit.
Yeah. ConvertKit.
So they
Yeah.
all have their pros and cons, but I'll say like integration with HubSpot is possible for basically everything, but it's just like anything else. Like you have to plan for it, you have to scope it out. A lot of times, if you're on a financial services cloud or Tamarac or some other CRM, there's custom integration work that needs to happen if you want to have a bi-directional sync. If you want to have the ability for your advisor to go into the CRM and tag somebody as a current client, tag him as a tech professional, tag him as over 5 years to retirement, and then have that feed your email marketing tool. There's going to be some custom work done there. So it's just a matter of like scoping that out and figuring out which systems you want to talk to each other. But that is a really important piece of it. I think is like the
Yeah.
tech stack and how you set those things up, because we've done it both ways. We've done it like that where we've set it up and it's more automated. It's fully integrated. It is ready to go. Or we've done it where it's more manual, like we were doing a CRM export and then we were uploading that list into HubSpot or a different email marketing tool, and then refreshing the list and then sending our email marketing. So you can do it either way. Like I said, pros and cons to both. There's more cost involved with the integration piece, but there's also the benefit of having the data sync and so on. So anyhow, that's probably a conversation for another time. But just want to touch on that for a minute because that's an important piece. Like, how do
Yeah.
you pick the tech stack and how does it integrate, and where and how do you personalize? Because what we've done is like we kind of personalize when we first get a big list. Then we go through the exercise. We can talk with our clients. We can do the personalization, like the tagging, if you will, ourselves. But also as you go on, your advisors that are in the CRM every day, that are creating new contacts, that are updating existing contacts, you want to give them really clear instructions on how they can help you create these segmented lists, how they can
Yeah.
help you like create these lists that allow us to do better marketing, on behalf of the firm. So they need to understand, okay, if I click this, and I tag this person as a tech professional, they're gonna start to see more content that is tech professional related. So that kind of thing. And then we can take care of the rest. But anyhow, just want to touch on the tech piece of it there for a second.
That's a really good point. Yeah, there's the data hygiene question of like, okay, you can get all this stuff organized, but then over the next year, how are you going to make sure everybody, as you
Right.
grow, how are you going to make sure that all this stuff is tagged? And that's where you get the client service associates involved with, specific processes and all the things that's really boring to talk about, but so important. And
Very important. Yeah.
yeah, you and I have been through a number of CRM projects, and they're definitely not our favorite, but they're a huge part of your overarching business operations, right? So, just one key component of this whole email marketing discussion.
Just like personal hygiene, very important. So glad we
Yeah,
glad we're kind of ending on that.
yeah,
Data hygiene.
100%.
What a crazy term.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you wanna
no,
go over? Any other key kind of takeaways you want people to leave with?
yeah. Just key takeaway is if you can get your clients and prospects tagged or organize lists between the two of them, opens up doors, and then focus on getting some of the personas you're proactively marketing after. Try to get some of those people tagged. Opens up a lot of like opportunities for you and sort of how you structure your overall email marketing.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for listening again. If you like the episode or the show or the term data hygiene, please give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, however you're listening to this. We would really appreciate it. And reach out to us if you have any questions on how this applies to your firm. You can find us at craftimpact.com. So thanks again for listening. We'll be back with more soon.